the sound of deafening silence. 23 game studios, and after all that was said, as things came to a head, the dust settled on the show. As far as AAA first parties go, despite all those big names in 2022, Xbox has no games. Such an abundance of supposed talent, and yet the absence is obvious. What is it that is stopping Xbox from finally putting a nail in the coffin of that dreaded narrative that should have long expired? Why does it painfully stall the discharging of that burden? In this video, I take a look at the state of Xbox's first-party development to discuss exactly that. Before we proceed, let me make one thing clear. This is my submission, and I submit that it is crucial that any serious platform holder get its AAA first-party output right. Quite simply, this is the primary manner in which the performance of a platform holder is judged. This is how you carve out your identity in the space, and history makes it abundantly clear that this is how you ascertain your winners and losers. PlayStation knows it, and so does Xbox, despite its temporary posturing to the contrary. And in my opinion, so should you. On paper, Xbox has everything it needs to come away a winner this generation. A multitude of studios with lots of variety and the bankroll of one of the most wealthiest corporations on the planet. It seems to be struggling at the moment, but will all that change? And if so, which studios will herald that change?
We know that exclusive games from our Microsoft studios are what originally turned so many of us into Xbox fans.
Acquiring studios is just part of the challenge. How you can manage them and create quality games is another. This is why the initiative is so interesting. A studio built from the ground up with some of the most talented people in the field working on the classic, highly regarded IP, Perfect Dark. The stakes are high here, yet in February 2021, the studio's most senior designer Drew Murray left the initiative to rejoin PlayStation's Insomniac Games. And the departures didn't stop there. As much as half of the core development team working on Perfect Dark have left the studio entirely, including the game director Dan Neuberger, lead level designer Chris O'Neill, and more. In September 2021, it was announced that Crystal Dynamics had been brought in to co-develop Perfect Dark. As far as I'm aware, that is pretty unprecedented, pulling in a dev team from another publisher to help develop a game. The exits from the team were described as fast and furious and heavily impacting the development of Perfect Dark. Former employees were frustrated by the lack of autonomy and were not being heard on key issues. Development was described by them as painfully slow. What does that mean for the game? VGC's source that broke the news stated that they would be surprised if Crystal Dynamics' introduction combined with the departures would not result in a soft reboot of Perfect Dark, and that the title is probably years away from release. We have yet to see any gameplay for the announced title despite Phil Spencer having played it. Perfect Dark cannot afford to be a subpar or passable experience. It cannot merely be a soft reboot, particularly in light of the developer interview that the studio released talking about the grand ambitions of the game and the mechanics within it. If Xbox cannot manage or support a studio it has built from the ground up, what does that mean for other studios where a culture already exists? Take a look at Undead Labs, working on State of Decay 3. Former employees reported to Kotaku that pre-production had been messy with a myriad of issues regarding fundamental features in the game, management decisions, and a toxic work culture, where one employee stated there was no visible intervention from Microsoft. It seems like Xbox is struggling to balance being hands-off and too controlling, whilst also managing some of these studios. Xbox's history with Rare has been a very spotty one. Once a force to be reckoned with classics such as Killer Instinct, GoldenEye, Banjo and Conker, it was only really until Sea of Thieves became a commercial success that Rare got some reprieve under Microsoft. But look at Everwild, which was first revealed in 2019. How does a game get announced and have multiple trailers show off for it, yet the developer making the game isn't exactly sure of what the game is? And then, a few years after the reveal, the game is supposedly taken back to the drawing board. In many ways, Rare is a good example of Xbox's struggle to balance studio autonomy. Last generation, Xbox was ridiculed for having a tight noose on Rare and forcing the studio to make Kinect games. Now, it seems like the output is perhaps suffering as a result of Xbox relinquishing its stranglehold on the studio. However, Rare just doesn't seem like your typical studio. There appears to be a real desire and drive to deliver unique and creative experiences, and I can sympathize with Xbox's dilemma with the studio. Any notion of the old Rare returning back to its original form should be completely discarded. But what will Everwild end up being? Will the whole concept end up being scrapped? When can we even expect to see gameplay from the title? Everwild certainly looks unique, and hopefully the studio can reconcile its creative drive and translate that into a product that delivers the quality Xbox needs. The Xbox Series X was revealed in 2019 alongside Hellblade 2. A lot is riding on Hellblade 2 because it's supposed to be a true representation of a next-gen only title that is also a third-person game, something that Xbox has been lacking in, especially compared to its competition. This is one of the few first-party AAA next-gen games that we have seen gameplay of from Xbox, albeit in extremely scripted fashion. The game looks incredibly promising and a lot of work seems to be going into it. This isn't a title that Xbox can rush out, but fans appear to be growing impatient at a lack of any indication regarding when the game will be released. Expectations are extremely high, perhaps too high for a game that is now subject to comparisons with the seminal God of War series. Besides visual fidelity, I don't think the comparisons are appropriate considering the styles of the respective games, but a combination of marketing and hype has now made this seemingly unavoidable. But peel away whatever misconceptions people may have, ultimately the quality of Hellblade 2 and its critical reception will be fundamentally important in assessing Xbox's management of studios. Whilst Fable was announced in 2020, the rumours of its development by Playground Games surfaced as early as 2018. Playground Games lead engineer Tom Galton revealed that he had been working on the game for 4 years, yet we've only been graced with a CGI trailer for the title. Playground Games has a very proven and excellent track record, albeit limited to racing games. However, I would be concerned if we didn't get a gameplay reveal in 2023, which would lend more credence to rumours suggesting that perhaps development is as smooth as Playground initially envisaged. Revealed 2 years ago, many were expecting a gameplay showing from Avowed from the talented studios Obsidian. Windows Central's Jez Corden has already had sight of the game, albeit in early form, which added to expectations. In fairness to Obsidian, it is finally releasing its live service game Grounded, and a much smaller title called Pentiment. Avowed and Fable perhaps are good examples of pitfalls of releasing CGI trailers to announce games before their actual reveal. However, in this day and age, it appears that the problem is perhaps unavoidable, owing to the alternative, which is for a game's existence to be uncovered through job listings. Hardly the most exciting way to lift the curtains on someone's beloved works. Xbox only recently decided to go all in on gaming, and perhaps these management struggles were inevitable in light of such dramatic change. The transition was never going to be easy, and I have said before that the impending finalization of the acquisition of Activision Blizzard, if it does go through, will make things even harder. But that doesn't excuse a behemoth like Xbox, with the financial might of Microsoft behind it, to falter as it has. One only need to point at 343 and its poor handling of Xbox's flagship title Halo as evidence. Observe the quality produced by Turn 10, Playground Games, and the Coalition. The pressure these studios were under, owing to the heavy reliance of them by Xbox last generation to sustain a platform on the brink of resignation, has resulted in them being quite formidable. In fact, they can stand shoulder to shoulder with the best in the game. It is that kind of quality that Xbox and its management should be striving for. Having an abundance of studios does not mean Xbox should ease off the gas pedal, or that it has a surefire win. I do not want to understate the disruption that the COVID-19 pandemic has caused globally. However, PlayStation, whilst also clearly impacted by it, has managed to consistently deliver first-party exclusives. It has just a fraction of the bankroll that Xbox has. Xbox cannot repeat a performance of 2022. Going forward, it needs to lead with the first-party AAA exclusives, and they need to show strongly. I would implore fans of Xbox to remain critical, albeit positive, about the future of the brand, because if anything, Xbox has long displayed a propensity to get disconnected from core fan sentiments until it's harshly reminded when it slips up. The Xbox One generation is a glaring testament to that statement. But the intention of this video is not to put a downer on Xbox. After all, Xbox has some incredible talent that has not really shown off what they can do with Xbox yet. You have the likes of Compulsion Games, In Exile, my personal favourite, id Software, Tango Gameworks, and more. Xbox should be consistently striving for quality and consistency, and actions speak louder than words. I hope the management at Xbox aren't just looking at the ABK deal as a solution to its first-party problem. What do you think of Xbox and its first-party showing? Do you agree with me that Xbox needs to show off strong AAA first-party titles and soon? Do let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe.